The United States men's national team just tied Brazil 1-1 in what was the last friendly match prior to the 2024 Copa America. This game gave Greg Berhalter his second signature draw. With that said, what did we learn? Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the 7 Things We Learned series, where every single day following a U.S. men's national team match, we tell you 7 things that we learned. Now, there's more than 7, so let us know in the comment section down below, what did you learn from United States 1, Brazil also won. And I also want to thank everyone that attended our Patreon YouTube members pickup game here in Orlando. We want to do more of these events, so feel free to join our Patreon if you want to. The more this community grows, the more we can fund these events, giveaways, and much more. So I truly appreciate everyone's support. And a great way to support the channel as well is to hit the like button right now. And that's a way to support the channel for free. And you know, free is good. So if you could right now, as long as your fingers are not super greasy and you're watching this on your tablet or iPhone, press the like button. And even if your fingers are greasy, still press the like button. Okay? With that said, let's go to lesson number 1. Okay, for lesson number 1, why don't we start with a positive? And the positive is pretty straightforward. This team proved they can compete with the best. I mean, they kind of showed that already in the World Cup against England, for example. With the right mindset, right tactics, and good in-game management, the U.S. men's national team can compete against the best teams in the world. Now, clearly, if you watched the game, you saw that Brazil had better players. Brazil, from a technical standpoint, was ahead of the United States, but the game was 1-1. And Brazil did have plenty of goal-scoring opportunities. I mean, Matt Turner made, 10 or 11 saves? But Alisson also made a lot of saves. Yunus Musa hit the post. The U.S. could have won. And with the right amount of luck, the U.S. would have won this game. And this is what I've been talking about for so long. The U.S. men's national team needs to put themselves in a position to get lucky, right? You can't have it like the Colombia game or even the Netherlands game in the World Cup. You need to give the opponent hell and keep the score tight. If you do that, you can get lucky and pull an upset. So props to the players, because most of them, if not all of them, played very well against Brazil, and props to the coaching staff. They got the players to have the right mentality. The approach was right. I guess the U.S. didn't start off well, but they adjusted. The whole building out of the back, we'll talk about that later in the video, but the coaching staff adjusted. Everything went well, so props to Berhalter, props to the players. I thought it was a very encouraging performance. Lesson number 2 is pretty straightforward also. Joe Scally proved he can hang. He is our starting right back for this summer, because Serginho Dest is obviously not available with a torn ACL. And let's put it this way, because this lesson actually combines both games, the Colombian match and the Brazil match. Joe Scally held his own against Luis Diaz from Colombia, and he held his own in this match against Brazil when he was facing Vinicius Jr. When you take into account the fact that the United States won't be playing Argentina unless we make it to the Copa America final, which I think we won't make it that far, even though I would love to, I don't think we will, he won't face better wingers than that. That's the best he can face, Diaz and Vinicius, on our side of the bracket. Better than that, probably just Messi, or maybe Di Maria. I don't even think Di Maria is better than any of those these days, but Messi for sure. With that said, Joe Scally can hang. He is our starting right back. I was a bit concerned because he was shaking the Bundesliga this season, but he held his own against a possible Ballon d'Or winner, Vinicius, even though Vinicius Jr. usually kind of sucks for Brazil, and he continues to suck for Brazil while he's world-class for Real Madrid. But this is not a 7 Things We Learned for Brazil. It's for the United States. And Luis Diaz was electric, but Joe Scally still held his own. So Scally is our starting right back. Now, lesson number 3. It's not really a negative, but I want to take us all back down to earth. Because the U.S. men's national team under Greg Berhalter, we have very often been very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. To put it into other words, we are very inconsistent. We've seen the United States play very well one game and then shit the bed the week after. We got trashed by Colombia last week, and then we pull a 1-1 draw with Brazil while we play very well. Then you would think we will easily beat Bolivia, not this weekend, but the other one when we open the Copa America, or at least when we have our Copa America opener. but that game could very well end in a draw under Greg Berhalter. You see, I am happy with what I've seen, and my hopes are higher, or at least I'm a bit more optimistic. But let's go back to earth and see how the U.S. men's national team behaves and plays in the Copa America against competitive opponents. And understand, Bolivia, Panama, these are not as competitive as Colombia and Brazil, but these will be competitive matches. So they might actually be tougher, even though I don't think it can get tougher than losing 5-1 to Colombia. My point, let's go back to earth. Good performance against Brazil, encouraging. I'm not as excited about it as I should be if we pulled a draw with Brazil in the Copa America, because I also think, or at least I thought, Brazil lacked a little bit of intensity. It didn't seem like they cared about the game as much as if it was a competitive game. But, you know, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, we've seen that multiple times with the U.S. men's national team under Berhalter. So be confident, but be, I guess, cautiously optimistic. Now, before we continue, please drop a like in the video if you haven't already. It's a great way to support the channel. And a quick word from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. We'll be back in a minute for lessons number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Underdog Fantasy is a fun game to play prior to any soccer match or basketball, football as well. You know, it just adds an extra excitement to the game. And this summer, I will be playing Underdog Fantasy during the Copa America and Euros. You can download the app by using the link in the description of this video and use the promo code TMTV. Yes, please, don't forget to use the code. And let me tell you why. Sign up with the code TMTV to claim your special pick plus a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The game I mainly play is called Pick'em. I just click on it, scroll to the soccer section, and pick a player for the specific match and select the stats that I believe will be lower or higher. It's very easy to play, but be smart about it because it's not that easy to win. I'll also be playing some Underdog Fantasy during some match live streams during the Copa America and Olympics, posting my picks on X and Instagram, so you must stay tuned for that as well. And once again, I'm a professional hater, so usually I pick anything that will have me rooting for the downfall of that player. With that said, once again, thank you Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the channel. The link to play is in the description of this video, and the promo code once again is TMTV. Thank you Underdog Fantasy. Lesson number 4 is about Matt Turner, and it's more of like a theory. I'm not sure on what I'm about to say, and you can tell me if you agree with me or not. It seemed like trying to play out of the back was affecting Matt Turner's confidence. Early in the game, we were trying to play out of the back, and Matt Turner messed up, and it was one of the reasons why Brazil scored. It's not entirely on him, but it was him not being able to distribute, and he was very poor on the ball, once again. But once we adapted and we switched, and that was probably coming from the coaching staff, Berhalter, BJ Callahan, to not have the U.S. men's national team continue to play out of the back, Matt Turner started to make a few saves, and his confidence started to go up. And honestly, he made 11 saves throughout the game. He was arguably the man of the match alongside Joe Scally and Christian Pulisic, at least for the U.S. men's national team. So I am wondering if playing out of the back is not only affecting the team in a negative way because we have a lot of giveaways, but it's also affecting Matt Turner's confidence, and that's why he's not being the elite or the very good shot stopper that he normally was. With that said, I hope the coaching staff learned. I hope Matt Turner learned. They stopped trying to play out of the back with Matt Turner because he can't play. He's probably as technical as me, but he's an incredible shot stopper. So if you give him that confidence, he can be very useful for us. And trust me, if we are an underdog, which we are, that's what we are, and we want to make a deep run, we're going to need Matt Turner to be sharp. We saw that against Brazil. If he wasn't sharp, we could have lost 4-1, 3-1. So that's the lesson. Lesson number 5 is about Weston McKennie. And all I will say is that I am a bit concerned about Weston McKennie this summer. You see, it was only 2 games, but he looked a bit off on both of them. He looks a bit heavy, slow, or at least slower than normal, not very sharp, and he is one of our best players. We need him to bounce back. So I'm a bit concerned about that. And the main reason I'm concerned is because from the Colombia game to the Brazil game, pretty much every single player that performed poorly against Colombia bounced back. Except for Weston McKennie. Look, it could be an overreaction. He could be fine, and I hope he's fine. We're going to need him in the Copa America, but I am a bit concerned. Lesson number 6 is that the U.S. men's national team needs to be more lethal or more direct in transition, and we're not. Against Brazil, we played in a mid-block, at least when Brazil was building out of the back, and then when Brazil would cross the midfield, we would go to a low block. And I was fine with that approach from Berhalter. My issue is we didn't have anyone to strike Brazil in transition. Probably would be best to play with 2 up top instead of having 3 with the wingers, and the wingers were tracking back, so they were never able to strike the opponent in transition, and Pepe is not really good in transition. He's not fast. That's not his game. Balogun would be the guy. Regardless, we're not direct enough. It doesn't seem like we have a plan to strike the opponent in transition. And I like that approach where we soak up pressure and try to hit Brazil on the counterattack, but we weren't dangerous enough. It never felt like we were a threat. And that's something that has to change, because if you want to be an underdog and you want to be a dark horse in the Copa America, you have to exploit those moments, especially against teams that are very ball dominant. Brazil was playing a high line. So if we had a plan and we were able to strike them on the counterattack, we would have had some good goal-scoring opportunities. But truly, we didn't. Maybe once or twice, but we never really looked threatening on the counterattack. Lesson number 7 is something I hope I am wrong about. But after watching these 2 games against Colombia and Brazil, even though we showed we can hang when we faced Brazil and we played well, I still thought Brazil lacked their regular intensity and they would play a lot better if this was a competitive match. And against Colombia, we were trashed. My conclusion is the following. I think we know what the ceiling is for the U.S. men's national team this Copa America under Berhalter. I don't see us pulling an upset against Colombia or Brazil in the quarterfinals. And that's who we're going to play. If you look at the bracket, we're going to face Colombia or Brazil in the quarterfinals. And based on what I saw in both of these matches, I just don't see it happening in a competitive game unless we get very lucky. So it's unfortunate. I hope I'm wrong, because I'm hoping for a semifinals run. That would be really good for the United States, and hopefully finishing in 3rd place, or who knows, a final. But if we're going to be 100% realistic, based on what we saw on the matches against Colombia and Brazil, I don't think the U.S. will go past the quarterfinals. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go. We will be covering the U.S. men's national team the entire Copa America. I promise. That's what we always do. Thank you, everyone that joined our Patreon. Thank you, everyone that's been supporting the channel by watching the videos, commenting anything down below to boost us in the algorithm, and everyone that joined the Patreon and blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. And I want to thank you all very much for watching, and have a great day.